Welcome back to The Point, a part of the Vendetta Sports Media Podcast Network. My name is Jarrod Prosser, and I'm very happy to have you with us again today. On each episode of The Point, I'll examine a topic, question, or issue currently impacting the NBA. Today on The Point, I'm going to take a look at the Year 2 development of Cleveland Cavaliers starlet Evan Mobley. The third overall pick in the 2021 draft, Mobley was an instant factor on the defensive end of the floor as a rookie. Next to fellow big Jarrod Allen, he formed a barrier close to the basket whilst also spending a lot of time at the top of a 3-2 zone that covered an extraordinary amount of space, in addition to his more standard big man duties. Offensively, though, whilst Mobley showed flashes, 2.5 assists a game as a rookie big man not tasked with carrying the basketball was most encouraging, and Mobley's high-low chemistry with Allen was a nice development. Overall, he ultimately wasn't quite an impact player at that end of the floor. The Cavaliers, in possession of a young, emerging core, could afford to wait for Mobley to develop into a genuine two-way force. They instead decided to fast forward their timetable somewhat this past offseason through the opportunistic trade for former Utah All-Star Donovan Mitchell. Given he's only 26 years old himself, Mitchell's acquisition does accelerate the need for the remainder of the Cavaliers' young core to develop in the same way as, to pluck a scenario completely at random, the Minnesota Timberwolves need Anthony Edwards to progress after their trade for Mitchell's former running mate in Rudy Gobert. Nonetheless, Cleveland, currently sitting in 4th place in the Eastern Conference, are not far off the pace of the East's big three, Boston, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia. That puts more impetus on Mobley, the youngest of the Cavs' core four, to become the best player that he can be sooner rather than later. Mobley's rookie season was, by just about any practical measure, an unqualified success. He averaged 15 points and 8.3 boards, as well as 1.7 blocks and a steal as a rookie. Defensively, he covered a mix of big men and bigger wings whilst doing a decent job on smaller jitterbug guards. He ended up finishing second in the Rookie of the Year vote, an award that many, myself included, thought he should have won. In Year 2, Mobley has continued his ascension as a defensive force. He sits just inside the top 10 in the NBA in blocks per game, gets a pair of deflection close to a steal per contest. His 8-point numbers rank him just inside the top 20 overall. Mobley's length and agility is perhaps best demonstrated by his ranking 6th overall in the league in contested shots at the rim, whilst also coming in 3rd overall in contested three-pointers. Mobley holds his direct opponent almost 5% below their normal shooting percentage. He is, if not elite, then awfully close to it as a defender already. With Mobley and Allen on the floor together, the Cavs allow 111.8 points per 100 possessions, an excellent number. Interestingly for the Cavs, when Mobley moves to the 5 with Allen off the floor, that number's all the way to 106.3, an elite figure. Mobley's length, footwork, and brilliant defensive instincts allow him to mirror his mark as they make them, meaning he can test without fouling unnecessarily. He has the same type of defensive versatility and, frankly, overall ability that Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bam Adebayo possess. To be clear, he's not at their levels just yet, but at 21 years old, he is dangerously close. Despite his defensive progression continuing unabated, for the first few months of this campaign, Mobley struggled somewhat offensively. Whilst he still averaged around 15 points a game, he was mostly subsisting on a diet of duck-ins and offensive rebounds. Statistically, he was doing pretty much what he did as a rookie. The eye test revealed a player that seemingly hadn't added any wrinkles to his offensive game. Back in mid-January, after a game in Utah, former NBA center and current analyst Kendrick Perkins questioned Mobley's apparent lack of an offensive leap in Year 2. Now, any sentient NBA follower knows that Big Perk can oscillate wildly between nuanced, considered opinion and, to use a very Australian phrase, speaking out of his arse. His Mobley take leans more towards the latter. With Mitchell and Darius Garland on board, Mobley clearly doesn't have to do an awful lot of heavy lifting for the Cavaliers offensively. His coach, BJ Bickerstaff, recently told The Athletic that a lot of development for top picks is opportunity, and he's 100% right. Mobley joined a team that had event all-stars in Garland, Allen, and current Jazzman Lowry Markkanen, as well as offensively minded veterans in Kevin Love and Colin Sexton. Sure, Markkanen were moved in the offseason and Love has since left, but that has only brought in a high-usage All-NBA caliber talent in Mitchell. Mobley simply doesn't get the same opportunities to impact the game with ball in hand as many other second-year players. In turn, that means he has to fill a defined role within an offense and doesn't get the chance to spread his wings and play through mistakes. So to say he's not developing offensively is a misnomer. He's clearly doing work behind the scenes. He just doesn't get the chance to show it in those 48-minute segments. That said, Mobley still has some issues scoring in the post, mostly down to his relative lack of lower body strength. He's far too easily, if not moved off of his spot, then forced to rise up where he stands without getting momentum towards the hoop. Both his turnaround jumper and hook shot are heavily affected when he's bodied. He's young, and you would expect he'll continue to develop lower body strength. Right now, though, it is an issue. Where Mobley can most definitely stand to improve is his jump shot. When talking about Mobley's jumper, the numbers that positively leap off the page are his three-point percentages. After shooting an even 25%, not a good number, Mobley's true shooting percentage ranks 162nd in the NBA, even after filtering out players who've played less than 500 minutes on the season. From 3 to 10 feet from the basket, Mobley shoots a disappointing 41.5% on jump shots, dropping to 38% in the 10 to 16 feet range. Interestingly, Mobley shoots an even 50% on long twos. His three-point shot at college level was pretty good, so maybe he's still adjusting to the deeper NBA line. It also suggests that when he gets the chance to shoot without a defender near him, with clear air around him, he's still pretty accurate. From a technical standpoint, a slight hitch as he rises up a side. The former Mobley's jumper is tight. However, his handle, whilst good for a 7-footer, can be gotten at by smaller defenders. That, combined with his slight frame, forces Mobley into rushed pull-ups when he attacks off the bounce, which may be contributing to his poor mid-range shooting. To be fair, Mobley has made some subtle improvements this season. He's very quietly on his way to being a force in the paint as a finisher. He's finishing 73% of his shots, excluding jumpers, in the key this season, up from 66% as a rookie. He's also been much better in the pick and roll, scoring over 1.1 points per possession when he's the roller, up from around 0.9 points last season. Since the beginning of February, Mobley has been posting averages of 19.9 points and even 9 boards and 2.8 assists. We're seeing a different version of Mobley at the offensive end of the court. He seems to have a newfound confidence with the ball in hand. He seems to be reading the game a little bit quicker. Both off the bounce and as the catcher in the pick and roll, Mobley previously had a tendency to stop and survey the floor mid-move, rather than instantaneously read and react. Those little micro delays saw whatever advantage he could carve out quickly closed. Recently, he's been acting with far more authority. When catching on the roll, he's getting into his move instantly and has added a lovely little up fake to his repertoire that he's getting defenders to commit. He's also getting into his moves far more quickly when faced with a mismatch. Whilst his dribble still can be compromised, this newfound aggressiveness means that should the defender commit to poking at the ball, which is really tempting when you've got a 7-footer coming down at you, they're often opening the door for a counter move, which, with Mobley's length, is almost impossible to guess when he gets into that counter quickly. Mobley has always been an intuitive cutter. He's now turning those catches into instant baskets. Assuming that this progression is real and that Mobley is on his way to becoming a genuine two-way force, it does beg the question of the fit between Mobley and Allen. Defensively, it's not a concern. Allen's capacity to handle bulkier bigs, combined with Mobley's ability to take on opponents of all shapes and sizes, make the two of them perfectly complementary. Allen's rim protection allows Mobley to play in a type of free safety role, similarly to how Brook Lopez gives Giannis the freedom to roam. Offensively, however, neither are shooters. Mobley may get there, but until he shows it, we have to assume that he's going to fall somewhere between below average and outright poor. As I mentioned earlier, the two bigs have developed a nice chemistry and can exploit smaller front lines as a result. However, Mobley isn't respected as a shooter, and Allen doesn't even venture out that far. That does close off driving lanes for Mitchell and Garland. Filling their gaping hole at small forward with a high-end shooter would certainly help the Cavs. But given Mobley's demonstrated ability to defend at the 5 to a high level at such a young age, should the Cavs eventually look to move on from Allen and bring in a stretchier 4 or 5? Given the age profile of their 4 tentpole stars, Mitchell, as I said, is the eldest at 26, the Cavs should be in no rush to move on from a foundational piece of the team quite yet. They have the time to let Mobley and Garland develop further. They have the time to find another wing that will complement their stars. They have ample time to fill out that very, very thin bench. Mitchell is an established star in this league. Garland isn't far behind. Allen is almost the dictionary definition of being a star within your role. If Mobley's recent offensive surge is real, then he's on the cusp of becoming a star himself. The Cavs' future is already so bright. The Cavs' future, it might be now. And that's going to do it for this edition of The Point. Please leave your comments and questions below the line, and I'll do my best to respond to you. Don't forget to like and subscribe to The Point and to all of the other wonderful material that Vendetta Sports Media provides. My name is Jarrod Prosser. Thanks for tuning into The Point, and I'll see you all again next time.